Good morning. It looks like most people are through the breakfast line. If you would make your way to your tables, we'll get the program underway. And please feel free to refresh your water, your coffee, your food as we go through the program. We've got a lot in store for you today, and we want you to just enjoy, be comfortable, eat and learn and listen as you go. So my name is Julie Humphreys. I'm the Communication Director for the City of Spokane Police Department, and it is a joy to have this job because I get to push out all the wonderful things that our officers do each and every day for the citizens of Spokane. So we have a phenomenal department, but you're going to hear that a lot this morning. So thank you for being here. This is kind of a big deal that you're here. You know, how often do you get to go back to work or back to your homes and say, I had breakfast with the chief? So today you do, and you are having breakfast with the chief, and you'll hear from him shortly. But before we hear from him, I'd like to call up Chaplain Mickey Tudor for our invocation.
Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you haven't started eating before we pray. Just kidding. Would you bow your heads with me? Well, Heavenly Father, we gather here today with hearts full of gratitude and purpose, seeking your presence and guidance as we unite in support of the Spokane Police Foundation. We thank you for the mission that brings us together to enhance the quality of life in Spokane by fostering partnerships between community organizations, citizens, and our dedicated police officers. Lord, we ask you for your blessing upon the foundation, its leaders, and all who contribute to its mission. May your wisdom guide their decisions, and may your love inspire their actions. Help us to build strong, trusting relationships with our community where mutual respect and collaboration can flourish. We pray for the safety and well-being for all of our officers as they serve and protect with courage and integrity. Strengthen them with your grace and grant them the perseverance to face each challenge with unwavering resolve. May our efforts today and in the days to come reflect your light, bringing hope, peace, and unity to the city of Spokane. Bless this gathering and all who are part of this noble mission. In your name, amen.
As the chief gives his presentation, we have cards on the table, index cards. We'll have a short question and answer section after he speaks, depending on how long we go. So if you have questions and think of them as you're listening, please write them down. What we don't get to, we'll have you write your email address, and we'll try to get back to you and answer those questions. So that's what your the pen and the index card is for. That's before the ask. So we're going to warm up your pen and your writing. So get ready, okay? Right now, I'd like to introduce Cheryl Stewart. She is the board chairman for the Spokane Police Foundation. She has had this role for 8 years. She works tirelessly putting together this event and doing so much for our only fundraising arm for the Spokane Police Department. So would you give a warm welcome to Cheryl Stewart?
Thank you, Julie. And good morning, and I'm so excited to welcome you all to the Spokane Police Foundation's annual Breakfast with the Chief event. It is so great to have you all here. For those of you who aren't familiar with the foundation, I'm going to keep this really short. Our mission is very simple. It is to help the police department achieve their mission, and that is to serve our community. We do that primarily through their community outreach programs, which you'll hear today, but that is why we came together, was so that the businesses and the citizens of the community could find a way to help support the department, because we do know the majority of this community does support the department, and this is a great way for all of us to give back to them. So we've been hosting this event for 7 years, and I want to thank many of you who have been with us for every event since then, so thank you for those who have been here for every year. And I want to welcome all of our first-time attendees. I can guarantee you, you will leave here today with a better appreciation and understanding of the work our officers do for our community, much of which never makes the news. So thank you again for being here. I want to start today by thanking our sponsors. The sponsors today not only underwrite the cost of this event, but all the programs we offer throughout the year. This is our biggest fundraiser of the year, and this event does make everything you'll hear about today possible. So I want to take a minute to recognize each and every one of those sponsors. Our chief level sponsor is Les Schwab Tires. Our sergeant level sponsors are the Greater Spokane Community Safety Initiative, Marie Pence with Windermere North, Spokane International Airport, Windermere Services Mountain West. Our corporal level sponsors, Baker Construction, Breakthrough, Downtown Spokane Partnership and Greater Spokane Incorporated, the Inland Northwest AGC, Jim and Gretchen McDevitt, Numerica Credit Union, Providence, the Responders Emergency Services Credit Union, I knew I should have written that one out, Teen and Kid Closet, and our patrol level sponsors are Christian Brothers Automotive, Condren Homes, Garco Construction, Multicare, the Rogan Family, Wendell Motors, and Dallas Becker with Windermere North. Can I please get a big round of applause for all these sponsors? I also want to recognize a few of our community partners that provided funding throughout the year in the form of grants for some of our programs, and that is the Spokane Parks Foundation, Walmart, Dick's Sporting Goods, and Spokane Bike Swap. So thank you to all of them as well. I now want to take a moment and recognize my fellow board members. This organization is run by a completely volunteer board. We have no staff, so we do all of this ourselves. And I can't thank them enough for the time and energy they put into making this foundation successful. So if you could each stand and be recognized when I call your name. Jim McDevitt. Thank you. Marie Pence. We'll do all of them. Becky Wheeler. Joyce Lockhart. Danette Larson, who could not be here today. And then I also want to recognize Jackie McConnell and Kathy Armstrong with the police department, if they could stand to be recognized as well. They're really the ones who do all the work. So thank you to both of them. And finally, he wasn't able to join us today, but I do want to recognize Garth Trimble, who recently stepped down from the board after 8 years of service as well. Garth and I were the first two people to sign on to this board. Thank you, Matt. We were the first two that signed up for this, and his leadership throughout that time and his help was invaluable. So thank you to Garth. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today. We also have a few dignitaries and elected officials today that I would like to recognize. So if you could still please stand and be recognized. We have Washington State Representative Jacqueline Maycumber. Washington State Representative Suzanne Schmidt. Spokane County Commissioner Mary Cuney. Spokane County Sheriff John Knowles. City of Spokane Councilman Jonathan Bingle. City of Spokane Councilman Michael Cathcart. Spokane School Board Member Mike Weiser. U.S. Attorney Vanessa Waldroff. And former Mayor Nadine Woodward. Thank you all again for attending. Now it is my honor to introduce Interim Chief Justin Lundgren to present today's State of the Department report. Chief Lundgren has been with the SPD for 27 years, most recently serving as Assistant Chief for the past 7 years. I'm going to let him give you more of his background and his time with the department, but I am very thankful we had someone of his caliber willing to step up and lead this department during a time of change and uncertainty, to put it mildly. And I personally want to thank him for his service to our community. So please welcome Chief Lundgren.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2024 Breakfast with the Chief. This important benefit is the only annual benefit for the Spokane Police Foundation, and I'm so honored to be here to host it here with you today. I'm going to be providing highlights of interest about the Spokane Police Department over the last year, and perhaps there was no bigger news than the retirement of our beloved Chief Meidel. I had the opportunity to work with Craig over the 30 years that he was on the department, or at least the 27 I was here, and most closely over the last 7.5 years. He's a man of just impeccable character. He was very, very easy to follow because you knew that he always felt like he was doing the right thing, and so you could get in behind that even if you didn't understand or didn't see the the issue from the same perspective. So I've benefited greatly by his leadership and the things that I've learned from him, and it's prepared me for the position that I'm currently in, serving as the interim chief. He always used to joke about my hair. He said that I had perfect hair. I don't think my hair is perfect, but you know, I used to tease him that he worked out like 10 times a week. And he had these huge muscles. So between his hair, or my hair and his muscles, you know, we were like the perfect dynamic duo. So in 2023, we had this incredible recruiting year. Over the last several years, there's just been this difficulty in recruiting in law enforcement. It's been smaller applicant pools, but we've seen just incredible, of the applicants that we're hiring, we just see this incredible quality. People are continuing to be called to this very important role. And by year's end in 2023, we were very close to having all of our commission spots filled. Our SPD volunteer program also grew. We had more volunteers, and they donated just a humbling 28,000, nearly 28,000 hours of their time to the department and the community free of charge. It's much, much more than 14 full-time employees that they added to the level of service that we provided the community, and we wouldn't be the same department without them. It's needless to say that 2023 was another very busy year for the SPD. Our arrests were up 22% a single year. From 2022 to 2023, we had 22% more arrests, 13% more calls for service. That breaks out to about 7,800 total arrests for the year. But we only arrested 5,500 individuals. That's because we have these chronic offenders, these people who have a disproportionate impact on our community. We had 521 people who were arrested 3 or more times last year by our department. 96, if you can believe it, that were arrested 5 or more times. And then the dubious distinction of 10 or more arrests went to 3 individuals in our community. If only we had a place where we could take these people so they would quit doing this. That'd be great. Well, speaking of being busy, our dispatch center does just a tremendous job to support our patrol and the community. And as of October of 2022, they took on call-taking responsibilities, and they're answering the 911 calls that were coming in to the 911 center. So we allotted 12 additional positions for a total of 33 for our dispatch. And just to provide some context of the volume of work that these individuals provide to our department, of all the 911 calls in the county, every single medical call, fire call, law enforcement call, about half of those are to SPD. And so those are flowing through our dispatch. Last year, whether it was calls that were coming from our dispatch or coming into our dispatch, actual phone calls, there were over 250,000 phone calls placed. So at just one month last year, we were looking and examining the value that our dispatchers provide to support our patrol, and we found that dispatchers were handling calls from start to finish without involving any police officers whatsoever in many different circumstances. And we were able to identify about $150,000 in patrol officer time that was saved in just that month with the work that they were doing in settling these calls and getting service to the community without patrol. So our patrol officers could focus on the emergency calls. And as amazing as our dispatch was and is, they are not the only group within the department that underwent change in 2023. After several years of consecutive years of year-over-year call for service growth that we were experiencing in the department, department leadership realized that we couldn't go on with the same level of patrol staffing and the same patrol shift configuration and be able to keep up with the increased demands and calls for service. So a group of our patrol leadership Some of them are here today, and forgive me if I leave anybody out, but I see Captain Sean Kendall, Lieutenant Jake Jensen, Lieutenant Sean Wheeler, and I know there were others. They got together and they said, how do we bring some resources into our patrol division? How do we reconfigure? And how are we going to be able to best keep up with this call growth? And so we brought officers who were assigned outside of patrol. We brought them back into the patrol division, and we added 7 detectives we reassigned to patrol. So instead of following up on cases in our investigative division, about 13% of our detective division was reassigned to patrol just to boost staffing. Under this new reconfiguration of patrol, we also were able to make the areas of responsibility smaller and put them under the leadership of the precinct in that location. So there's a captain, a team of lieutenants and sergeants that focus on Northwest Spokane, Northeast Spokane, South Spokane, and downtown. As we'll see in the following video, the downtown precinct very much benefited from this reconfigurate. It's easy for me to say, huh? The new model. How's that? But please note that when we filmed this video, it was early last year. It was before we had some of the local changes in the local laws that allowed us to have some additional teeth when it comes to drug enforcement.
It's the jewel of our city, downtown, surrounded by a beautiful park with a river running through it. A place where families, individuals, visitors, and businesses live and play. An area prioritized by the mayor, her administration, and the police department to address an increase in criminal activity that is threatening our quality of life and sense of security.
The illegal drug use really fuels our problems downtown. You know, with the decriminalization of possession, we are seeing such an increase in the amount of narcotics being used. And it's tragic, particularly for our vulnerable population. I understand the intent of the law was to not criminalize drug use, but now we have a lot of people who are using the drugs, openly using the drugs, which leads to theft, which leads to, you know, increase in other problems, increase in fatalities. It's been quite a challenge when we drive around and there's open drug use and there's no way we can address it. And it's really hurting our efforts to make communities safer.
In January, SPD implemented a patrol reorganization plan citywide that put more officers on the streets.
Hang in there, man. Like, your kids are worth it, you know?
The plan doubled the number of officers in the downtown core and increased patrol hours to better cover late night and overnight.
We've increased our patrol. We're making contacts, you know, loitering, drug use, prostitution, I mean, all the quality of life type problems and the things that create a lot of victims in our neighborhood, you know, the thefts and a lot of that kind of centered around here. So we've made that effort. We put the enforcement into it. We've collaborated with the ownership here, other stakeholders in the neighborhood, and talking with people to try and figure out how we can kind of solve these problems together.
I actually just respectfully request that maybe that you guys watch this area more because it's happening quite consistently. Okay, thank you.
One example is the 7-Eleven store on 2nd and Division. Long plagued by crime, drugs, and people loitering, SPD recently assigned extra patrol and resources to the area. Officers talk with people hanging out on and around the property, direct some to services, and arrest others.
Past 1 month, we've been having we see a big change. I've been having extra support from police department. Most of the time, they just come here, they park, and usually people like customers, they scared to do like drug deals and stuff like that, so they don't hang out here as much as they used to. So it's been big change for past 1 month.
The increased police presence alone is having an effect on criminal and quality of life issues in downtown, and so are the arrests. In a 12-day period in January, police arrested 77 people throughout downtown for violations including sit-and-lie, trespass, and illegal camping. Ryan Vane manages a thrift store downtown under Reclaim Project Recovery, a program for men coming out of addiction, incarceration, and homelessness.
The police presence has really helped to, you know, having them come through on a regular basis and just being here all the time, the population of homeless people that are hanging out here have really realized that this just isn't a good spot for them to be. It's made all the difference. I just can't be more happy with the way it's been going. Interacting with the officers, getting to know all these guys, letting them know what our program is about, I think helps them, want to patrol down here in our area. And, we're all trying to fight the same fight. We're trying to just build a better community for everybody.
Thank you, Ryan. Nice to meet you. Okay, you too.
Julie Humphreys for the Spokane Police Department.
So I'd like to thank Jerry Swanson, who behind the scenes does a lot of work on the videos, Jeff Humphreys, Julie Humphreys, no relation. She also is providing her voice to that video, and I don't know, she does a pretty good job. I think she might have a future as a news anchor or something like that if she ever wants to. So thanks for your assistance on that. We got some help and some relief in the way of some positive legislation from the City Council in the last year as well. I want to focus on two ordinances that provided tools for officers to be able to keep our community safer. The first of which was the Parks Hours Ordinance. And what that did was it recriminalized something that had always historically been criminal, which is to be in a park after hours of operation. The Parks Board and employees were noticing an increased level of vandalism in the parks after hours. And even more disturbingly, we were having shootings that were occurring in these parks when people would get into disputes after the parks had closed. And this was happening all over the city parks. It wasn't focused in any one geographic area. It was a problem all over town. So by recriminalizing and reinstituting the Park Hours Ordinance, it gave the officers the tools they needed to be able to confidently and with legal authority contact people who they believed reasonably may be armed during this process. Fortunately, we didn't have to arrest very many people. Having that tool, we were able to go out, we were able to provide public education, we contacted a lot of people and got compliance. And as the weather gets warmer now this year, we are going to continue those efforts both after park hours as well as during the day. Additionally, in May of last year, the City Council criminalized the public use of illicit drugs in our community. And this was another tool that we really desperately needed. Due to legislative and court decisions that had come down over the past several years, we saw an increase in illicit drug use and a kind of boldness in just using drugs anywhere in public. That is still lingering to this day. But now we have an effective tool to be able to make those arrests when we can. The following body camera clip, it's just a short clip, is going to show a portion of a 3-hour emphasis after that public drug use ordinance came into effect. During that 3-hour time span, the team was able to make 17 arrests. The woman that you're going to see was contacted once, cited and released for public drug use, and then less than an hour later, sadly, she was contacted again, and as you will see that she was booked into jail on the second offense. If you could cue the video, please.
Really? We saw it. Okay? And that's where it is. You don't have to. This is not where you're going to argue it, okay? So you're going to have your time in court. You're going to be able to argue it to a judge.
We weren't doing it.
We have probable cause to make an arrest, okay? So this is not a conviction. This is just an arrest.
How long do you go before you get dope sick?
Does it matter?
Well, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help you out with some resources here, okay?
We don't need resources. Don't pretend to care.
I'm not,
Please,
though.
I don't need your pity.
I'm not pitying you. I'm trying to give you a different perspective on things, right? For her, me telling her, trying to build rapport as far as telling her about the experiences of my family when it comes to controlled substances and getting clean, talking about trying to help work with her on these things. To her, it sounds a lot more like white noise.
So, over the past several months, there have been some highly publicized events, such as officer-involved shootings, that bring to the forefront discussions about use of force and de-escalation by police. So I'd like to take this opportunity to provide a little bit of data and perspective on police use of force, because I think this is a really important topic for the community as well as for the police department. Last year, officers went to about 300 calls per day. This equated year-long to about 107,500 calls. Through all of those contacts, the officers, detectives, all the follow-up, all the officers involved in all these incidents, force was used, reviewable force was used 85 times, and then we had 2 deadly force incidents. This means that in over 99.9% of all the contacts, all the incidents, all the self-initiated activities performed by our officers in the community, no force was even necessary to accomplish with the goal of the contact. Even during arrests, when we know we have a higher chance we're going to have to use force, SPD experienced a 1 to 2% use of force rate during arrest events. And this maintained consistency across all racial and other demographic groups for the city. De-escalation is somewhat of a buzzword. You hear it spoken about a lot, but what it really boils down to is a category of tactics, equipment, resource deployment, communication, all these things that come together to try to prevent the use of force, or if force is necessary, to reduce the amount of force that is necessary to successfully end the incident. But I want to be clear that when officers are attempting de-escalation, when it's safe to attempt de-escalation and officers attempt de-escalation, these tactics are offered to suspects. They're offered to subjects in the community. And those subjects or suspects have to accept that offer. It's not a one-way street. So as good as our officers are and as effective in 99.999% or however many percent it is that they're able to avoid using force, we still need the cooperation of the people that we contact to avoid force in the community. In this short body camera clip that you're about to see, it's pretty much boring. And as chief, I really like boring. Boring is great. I wish every call was boring. But that's what de-escalation is. We slow things down. It takes longer. We bring in resources and we bring things to resolution that we want. And by doing all these things, you see the success that the officers have. SWAT, K-9, and hostage are involved in this particular incident. It started when officers saw a car that was occupied by 2 people who were wanted. One of them was wanted for a felony. Before the officers could stop the subjects and take them into custody, they were able to get into a house and barricade themselves. And so let's watch and see what happens.
This is Spokane Police Department K-9 unit and SWAT team. You are under arrest. You need to come out of the house now.
We know you guys are inside. We're not going away. You guys need to come out with nothing in your hands. Come talk to us.
Come out now. We have a signed search warrant. Keep walking to us. Keep walking. Keep your hands where we can see them.
Pistol's coming out.
Stay where you're at. Keep your hands up. Come out.
Walk right to us. Come with me.
All right. Keep your hands nice and high and start slowly walking out to us. Keep walking. Keep walking. Keep walking. Hands nice and high for me. Turn around.
Walk back to me. Walk backwards.
So in 2024, it's a new year. We certainly have challenges, we certainly have opportunities, and it's a really, I think, a pivotal time for our department. One of the bar graph here demonstrates one of our growing challenges, and that is the reports of illegal camping in our community. You look at the first 4 months of the last couple of years compared to the first 4 months of this year, and you can see that the public is reporting illegal camping at a rate that is much, much higher than in prior years. So what the city and the police department are doing to address this this trend is we have split up our homeless outreach team. The homeless outreach team consists of Spokane police officers, code enforcement, and city cleanup crews that go out and make contact at these camps, move people along, take enforcement action, and clean the site. So by splitting it into two, the hope is that we can have one dedicated team that remains downtown, another one for the neighborhoods, and for people who are establishing a campsite and then moving and going to another area and establishing a campsite, that we don't let people get comfortable, that we're hitting those as efficiently as we can. Another thing that we are struggling with right now and responding to is an increased number of shootings, both drive-by shootings and just public shootings. And this is despite the fact that our overall level of violent crime in this community is down year over year. One way that we're responding to the shootings and to get suspects into custody as quickly as possible is a reutilization of our Safe Streets Task Force. We have partnered with the county and the Spokane Valley Police Department to have a team called Raven. It's going to be very focused directly on our community and these types of offenses to get these people into custody and to respond to this, to respond to the shootings that we're seeing. Another thing that's been in the news quite a bit is our budget. And citywide, the general fund budget has a structural gap. Our costs are growing at a rate that is faster than our revenues. And so we're examining different solutions as a city and trying to work through that budget problem. But SPD in the past 12 months has also been awarded $2.3 million in outside grants to help stretch those really tight budget dollars and make sure that we're able to afford the level of service, the best level of service we can to the community. And then it goes without saying that within the next several weeks, we should know who the new chief of the Spokane Police Department is going to be, and we'll start a whole new chapter with the agency. So I want to end on one of the more exciting and active specialty teams. Believe it or not, our air support unit that has officers and drone pilots actually has been activated, I was told yesterday, in the last month 130 times. I didn't think that was possible, but that is 130 operational activations of flights that our drone unit. And so I've got a video that shows our current technology, and you'll see a canine track, and you'll see that the terrain is obstructed, so the canine officers and the officers supporting that canine are not able to see the suspect. The suspect will be jumping over fences, but there is a drone that is looking down from above, and that operator is able to direct resources in and block the escape path of the suspect, who will be taken into custody without any force or any other fanfare. And then the second portion of that video is going to profile a new type of drone that we were able to get through a grant. It's called a Dragonfish. And this is the next level of capability for our department. The Dragonfish allows an operator to operate it. It does not require line of sight operation, so the drone can go up to 18 miles away from the operator, which gives it an incredible capability. It can stay in the air for 2 hours, a 2-hour flight, which is much, much longer than the current drones that we have. It can track multiple suspects. So imagine a suspect vehicle stops and 3 or 4 people pile out and they go in different directions. This drone will be able to track each and every person and keep track of where they are and help us to guide officers in to make arrests in the area. So we're very, very excited. We'll go ahead and cue that video now, please. So where that cursor is, that's where our suspect is, and he's jumping over fences. Our canine team view is obstructed by that shed. And there's literally nowhere for that suspect to go to get away. And so with that, that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you. Julie, do you have any questions?
We do have some questions, and if you have ones that you haven't handed over, Kathy's here as well, so she can pick some up. And thank you. We have time for at least 3 because we cut out the audio on that last video, so we saved time, right?
Did you take out all the hard questions like I asked you to?
Okay, first question. How do we address the rise in violent crime among the youth?
That's a really good question. And I think all of us that are here today to support the Police Foundation and the community outreach efforts of the department is probably the most substantial first step at that type of a positive change in the community. Having the engagement with particularly at-risk youth and developing those relationships between police at the age where folks are most impressionable, I think has a huge positive impact. But we have to, once violence happens in the community, we have to have resources that we can dedicate in addition to patrol, in addition to investigations, teams like our Violent Crimes Task Force and teams like Raven that focus on not only seeing and knowing what's going on in the community, but taking the steps, like Officer Valdez, I know is in the audience here. He does an excellent job. If we have some violence in the community, he knows who is connected to who and who is going to be upset and what might happen next. And he's reaching out behind the scenes and he is talking to people and he is weighing up what's going to happen so we can avert that next response attack, because otherwise it's one shooting and then we have an assault and then we have another shooting and it goes on and on. So the work that he and his team do is really important.
Okay. This question is one that Chief mentioned. We hear a lot about illegal camping. How much of the increase in illegal camping is due to the changes in law versus more campers?
I couldn't begin to quantify that. I don't know. I certainly think that it's no mistake to say that policy issues and the environment in a community definitely drive different atmospheres and result in different levels of camping. We can look across the Pacific Northwest and see cities who have problems that are much more advanced than Spokane, and we can see some that are having better success. And I think the key is that we look at communities where they're having success and we try to emulate the things that they're doing right. And we look at the communities that are struggling and talk to folks and figure out where maybe some of their challenges lie and try not to copy those.
Thank you. Okay, last question, and I have this in 3 different forms, so it's on a lot of people's minds. All of us here today are strong supporters of your mission. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We know that. How can we best help the Spokane Police Department improve public safety?
Well, I think it's a testament. A lot of agencies would be so jealous to be able to have an audience this big to support a mission of connecting with the community. We are so fortunate in Spokane to have a supportive community, one that not only supports the department, but is willing to come to events like this and financially support community outreach efforts that we're undertaking in partnership with the community. So I think what you're doing is supporting that mission, and we really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. And if you have a question that you didn't get answered, bring it by me afterwards and put your email address on it, and we will attempt to get back to you. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Sergeant Greg Rogan of the Community Outreach Unit.
Little meeting there of the community outreach unit. Because someone wanted to, and I'm going to this is Officer Jen Kearns with the community outreach unit, and she's been anxious to say this. So.
Hello and good morning, everyone. So very quickly, we're changing up a little bit of our routine here, but we have an officer here that has to go to court, and she needs to get out of here quickly. But she was the Officer of the Year for the Spokane Police Department, and that is Michelle Kernkamp. So I'm not sure if everybody knows how fantastic of a police officer she is, but she is the best communicator I have ever been around. She has massive experience being on the hostage negotiation team. She has been on the streets of Spokane for how many years, Michelle? 26 years. She has de-escalated situations. She's been in high risk, high tension situations and has just come out of it beautifully. She has eliminated situations that could have become very, very bad just by her talents and her communication. And every police officer wants to work on a team with her. Every police officer wants to work on a team with somebody that has those qualities. So we love you, Michelle. Congratulations on Officer of the Year. Yes.
Didn't know you were getting called out, did you? That's what happens when you go to the Lilac Parade. You get called out here. Well, like I said, good morning. I'm Sergeant Greg Rogan with the Spokane Police Department, and behind me is Officer Micah Prim, and you met Jen Kearns. This is your outreach unit for the Spokane Police Department. Both Jen and Micah will talk a little bit about our programs that they run throughout the year through support with the foundation. Getting ready for the breakfast is my third breakfast, and I've kind of done the same thing the last 2 years, and I was trying to think about what I was going to say this time. And I was like, 2 weeks ago, I went to a national convention in Atlanta, Georgia. And there was hundreds of departments, and there was 2,000 officers that attended this in Georgia. And the classes would break up into smaller groups, and we would have problem solving, and we would meet in little groups. And they would ask us questions and problems, and then all of a sudden we'd have to go around our group and would have to say what we would do. And I would say, explaining what we did with the Spokane Police Department, and they'd be like, a lot of them were chiefs, captains, and they're like, whoa, 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 what do you have? We're like, well, we have this program and this program and this program. They're like, oh, Buffalo, New York, we don't have that. I want your card. And they were just amazed of what Spokane had. And it was interesting because we'd go to lunch and I was getting cards and finding out that a lot of main big cities around our country do not have what we have here. One of the classes talking in a group, and I wasn't wearing a uniform, and one of the officers says, "You're from the Spokane Police, aren't you?" And here I am in Atlanta, Georgia going, "Well, how did you know that?" She goes, "I'm the Lacey, Washington Police Department. I have been stalking your Facebook page for the foundation and the police department, and I need to know more. Here's my card, please call me." So she stated that they have started several programs by just researching from our webpage and the foundation's webpage. And so they, this year, have started a police activities league, and they're only doing it for 1 day, and it was such a great thing, they're gonna now do it for a week. And she said, couldn't have done it without stalking our Facebook page. So just to show that just within this area, and she was amazed because a lot of places in Washington State, officers don't run the Police Activities League. It's usually a civilian that run it, and then if the police can show up, they can show up. Here, we actually run it, and we're actually involved in doing it. On the way back, I was like, wow, that was amazing. That was 4 days of Spokane is getting it right. And I was like, not just the police department, not the foundation, but Spokane, the city, just like the chief said. That is one of the better ways to get behind it. I was just amazed, and I was thinking, okay, that's what I got to tell at the chief's breakfast is that nationwide people know about our programs and what we do. So If you ever get a chance out there to go to that conference, it was a great one. One of our programs that the department wanted to know about was called the Crisis Assistance Program. And this is funds used by officers for immediate assistance for families and individuals. Officers have access to a Visa card, which is paid for by the foundation to help with anything from food, clothes, bikes for kids. And this year, Officer Kelly Mongan went on a crisis call where the mother was unfortunately taken to the hospital. And while he was sitting in there talking to this little girl, found out that she did not have a bed. And so he said, well, show me where you sleep. Well, she slept on a cot with Papa in the spare room. So he went out and bought a bed, sheets, and blankets because they couldn't afford a bed for this little girl. So through the assistance program, he was able to go out and do that. And that was one of those ones where, when I was in Atlanta, they were like, what do you have? You can spend money without going through the department? And so officers are able to, if they see a problem out there, with that card, they can go out and they can buy what they need to do without having to go through the department. And I'm just saying, this couldn't happen without the support of you and people donating and giving their time. And that is exactly what Spokane needs. And so right now I'm going to turn it over to Officer Prim, tell you a little bit more about our others.
Good morning. We've worked with the DEA and the Boys and Girls Club at the Shiloh Hills and Northwood locations for our youth art program. So thank you, Marcus, for coming today from the DEA. Appreciate it. Police officers talk with youth about drug prevention and positive decision making. We made priceless art pieces, contour drawings, sculptures, and paintings. This served about 50 youth in our community. The soccer program with Thrive International served about 100 refugee youth last summer from 18 different countries, and they're expecting about 200 plus this summer, well, all the influx of refugees into our community. We also teach drug awareness and core values such as respect and integrity. The international language of soccer is a great way for our police officers to connect with the community. And with that, Officer
Jin. So I'm just going to run through a couple of programs that we do that I feel like people should definitely know about, because we are open and very receptive to people who want to nominate families into our second program that I will speak about. I will get there. Our first program is our flagship program, which is our PAL, Police Activities League. And it's what Sergeant Rogan was speaking about. The other department on the west side of the state, they were like so happy that they got 1 day of PAL in. We are running a 5-week free summer PAL program for kids who don't have anything, cannot afford, the parents can't afford babysitters in the summertime when school is not in. We have our own police officers show up. We had 56 officers in the park at different times throughout the summer in PAL 2023. So whatever area we're in, those officers that are on patrol, they go ahead and come off on their lunch or something, and they come and interact with the kids. So we try to make things fresh because it is for children who are ages 8 to 15, and a lot of those kids grow up with us in this program. They come back. So we try to keep things fresh. This year we were so lucky to partner with Marcus and the DEA, and he brought in his idea of martial arts, and it's a national program throughout the DEA, throughout the country. And it was very interesting because our PAL program, we preach 5 core values. We preach respect, honesty, integrity, leadership, sportsmanship. And when Master Kim came into the park and had all 100 kids, or anywhere from 80 to 120 kids, doing the exact same thing at the exact same time, it was unbelievable. He not only hit on our core values, but they were his core values as well. So if we can get these kids to understand that the 5 core values are staples of life, then we're going to have a lot of successful people in our community. So on top of that, we added this year, it's really cool, our 5 core values are these little, what are they called? Wristbands, maybe, yeah. And they have the 5 core values on them. So instead of always targeting people that are not in a good place, we decided at PAL we were going to have all of the police officers and staff pick out kids throughout the 5 weeks that exemplified one of our core values. So at the end of every day at the end of PAL, we would give these bracelets out. And we told the kids, if you are such a good person, and if you are helping and showing sportsmanship, leadership, whatever, and you get all 5 colors by the last day of PAL, we had a partnership with not only Target, but Walmart, who gave those kids the back-to-school shopping. And we just wanted to reinforce also good kids who are doing things the right way. It is so important to have a mix of kids in PAL. It's important to have these parks in the areas that they're in. And yeah, our PAL program is off the charts. So we definitely love your guys' support. We need your support to be able to run these things. And oh, I have some statistics for you, actually. So we had 405 unduplicated youth participate in 2023, which is a lot. I mean, we had about 380 kids regularly coming. We had 56 Spokane police officers show up and staff, along with our volunteer services office. We had 51 community volunteers show up. 38 of those 51 came from our partners, Numerica. Thank you very much. You're in the parks working with us, so we appreciate that very much. According to the students, or the participants, youth participants, they had a 97 after their feedback surveys that they all filled out for us at the end of PAL. They had a 97% rating on PAL, hoping to have trust within police officers and the police, and able to come to the police if they were having any sort of issues in their family. There is 92% effectiveness on the drugs and alcohol piece in our PAL program. So once again, Marcus was involved with the DEA with our PAL program, and this partnership is really important for us. The second thing that we have is our Christmas giving program, and this is such a cool program. It's nicknamed the Adopt a Family program, and we had 22 families this past year. We find families in a couple different ways. First and foremost, our patrolmen who are out on duty, who show up to calls, whether it's just a welfare check on somebody or it's a domestic violence call. Police officers have this really unique advantage to be able to go into people's homes and see what's inside the homes. Therefore, we're able to help people with the Crisis Assistance Fund card and help families in that moment, as well as keeping in mind, they'll call that community outreach unit and say, hey, Jen, I went to a call here, or hey, Micah, I went to a call here, and this family could really use some help over the Christmas time. I feel like we should adopt this family. So we go and do our homework and the background work that goes into adopting a family for Christmas. The second way we get families is through our great relationships with the teachers and the counselors within our elementary and middle schools and high schools here in Spokane. We took so many families from these schools, or counselors that personally reached out to us, teachers that personally had us come into their class and educate on anything from internet safety to overall family plans, safety family plans, so on and so forth, and then building those relationships and finding families that kind of have slipped through the crack or are about to get on a path that's not fortuitous for them. Also, we find our families through our awesome relationships with our community centers, West Central Community Center, East Central, Northeast, Northwest. So those guys all have families in mind that need help over the Christmas time, and we are extremely ecstatic about our partnerships. One, first and foremost, with Les Schwab. They've been with us for years, and they just continue to come back and continue to give us money for this Christmas giving program. Secondly is Christian Brothers Automotive out in Liberty Lake. They're a huge sponsor for us. They show up every year. And then life-changing for myself was our addition to Teen and Kid Closet, because I used to shop for clothes for over 115 people within about 3 weeks, and it was so exhausting. So teaming up with Robin Nance, thank you very much, and Sean over here, Linda, and Ella, what we did this year was we brought in the moms of every family, or dads of every family that we chose to support, which was over 100 people, and brought them down to Teen and Kid Closet, and they opened the store just for these families, and then Mom shopped for every one of her own kids, knowing the sizes perfectly, what colors the kids liked. They got shoes. Yeah, moms are amazing. We really should just resource them more often. Absolutely. So partnerships are very important for us, whether it is resources or whether it is funding. But we really need it in order to keep these really positive programs going. And yeah, go Cougs. Next, we have a partnership with New Tech, a skill center, and up here on the right side of that last picture was Tommy Williams, but he is here in person, and I would like to welcome Tommy Williams to come up and speak.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Tommy Williams. I am the New Tech Skills Center, New Tech Prep criminal justice instructor. And so I guess they wanted me to talk about a few things. I wear a few hats in our community, but the most important one is I'm a dad, a husband. So we have 6 boys who have come through. Usually when I say that, I pass a hat around to help. So I am a criminal justice instructor at New Tech. Been there 7 years next month. And when I got the job, New Tech, if you're not familiar, it's a trade school, if you will. We have construction, automotive, culinary, construction, cosmetology, aviation, you name it. It's a really awesome place to work. Every time I go there, I can't believe I'm working there. But when I first got the job, they said, well, yeah, we're trying to help kids to get into the criminal justice field. And I said, okay, well, I know that you have to be 21 to be a police officer. So all of my students are, juniors and seniors in high school. And so to try to motivate juniors and seniors to be police officers, for one, I commend them for wanting to do that, to step up to the plate. But for number 2 is that, the frontal lobe is reasoning, self-control, impulse control, right? So trying to convince them to stay focused for those 3 years before they're 21 is hard. So one thing that I knew I needed to do was to continue to work with the community. So Greg and I go way back from POW, when our organization used to work with POW years ago when we first started. We knew that we needed to get the police involved. Well, I knew I needed to get the police in the classroom. And one of those ways was through the YPI Youth Police Initiative program, which I knew all about because I knew how they did it in the community. And so that was one way that I was able to get our youth focused and motivated to be police officers. But again, 21, how can we get them ready for 21? So this year was a pivotal year with Spokane PD, with the YPI program, but also we partnered having other programs involved. We just started an Explorer program. We were in the parade this past weekend, so we have an honor guard. We partnered, we have Border Patrol who comes in 1 day a week, and they are able to do a lot of defensive tactics, things that I can't really teach. And with that, those students are able to get hired at 18. With Border Patrol, but then also, guess what? They can lateral transfer to where? Back home to Spokane.
And so right now, my goal, I'm 53, so I'm on a 10-year path before I retire. I want to have our youth in New Tech transition over to be law enforcement officers in our community. And the one thing that we have to do is to make sure they see that pathway. And that's what New Tech does, is helping create that pathway for them. Another thing with our program is that when they come through, I know, I don't know if you know SEC, well, I'm not going to get political, but hey, it's true, but they canceled their program for criminal justice program, so that was very hard for my students. And so we knew that we needed to make sure that we continue to keep them motivated. And with our partnership with Spokane PD and YPI, and we also are doing things in the community together, so I switched my hat a little bit. I'm also executive director of Operation Healthy Family. We have a youth outreach program that my wife and I have been doing for 12 years in Spokane, and that's why I got hired with the district, because I was a restorative justice facilitator. So I've always worked with restorative justice, meaning repairing the harm done in the community. And so with our organization, we also partnered years ago with Spokane PD. And so now we're going to revamp that and work with our Emmanuel Fitness program, and we're going to have Spokane PD come in and work out with our kids just in South Perry at Emmanuel Fitness, because after school between 3 and 6, you know what happens. You know, if they don't have a good thing to do, they will do bad things. And so with the Spokane Police Foundation, we decided to, hey, why don't we have our police officers come in there as well. But I'm very excited for our kids. Right now, my students were excited that I'm here because we had a case law quiz today. And so they're like, you know, so my captain, we have leadership, so my captain in my class just sent me a text. They're like, so are we going to have the quiz? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be there in a minute. So yeah, we still be doing that case law quiz. So, but next year, I'm really excited. We're going to do things a little bit different with our Explorer program, and then also with, so we teach Miranda warning, case law, constitutional law, handcuffing. So next year they're going to learn Miranda warning in Spanish. When I said that to them, you should have seen the looks on their face. But I'm always trying to raise the bar for our young people, because, you know, when I'm no longer on this earth, I want to make sure that, you know, my impact will be impactful, if you will. So I'm really excited to be partnering with these three up here. Every time they come to the classroom, my students like, step aside, we want to talk to these three. And it's really exciting to have them. I know with the YPI program next year, my students are already talking about it. So I just can't say enough about these three. They have done excellent work in our community. They have a heart for it, and I'm just so happy to be partnered with them. Thank you.
Next, we will have Marcus Pickett from the DEA come up and say a few words.
I want to say Marcus flew in from Seattle, so if there's rain, we're going to blame Marcus for that.
Well, good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you for having me. It's a very beautiful city you have here, and I want to just make sure you understand the significance of having a beautiful city and such a great police department that takes care of you. Sometimes we look around and we think about what are we doing for our kids, because that's our future. That's where we invest. So when you have something like the PALS program, and last year was my first year working with the PALS program. As you can tell, I'm from North Carolina, so you hear that southern drawl in there. So when I saw the program and I was a part of it, I realized, I said, man, I would like to duplicate this in my hometown and other states around our country, because it's so important to teach those core values. That's what our parents normally do for us. Our parents come in, they teach us those core values. And then you have these great individuals behind me. They are great, I'm gonna tell you that. And they're fun, so when the kids come and they learn those core values, and they look at them as humans, not as just these people who are out to get us, but as humans who want to help our community. So the police department is actually doing some things that some people's parents are not doing. So you have to look at it from a different perspective. And being part of DEA, and yesterday was my 1-year anniversary of being in the Pacific Northwest and working for DEA. And partnering with them, it's an honor. and I'm happy they invited me to come here and speak to you all. And most important thing, I want you to support them because they are taking care of your community. And I told them I would not talk more than 5 minutes, so I'm not going to talk more than 5 minutes. So I just want to make sure you understand that our partnership with DEA, I'm the community outreach for DEA, which is the whole 4 states, Alaska, Idaho, and Washington. And this is the Best Powers program, the martial arts program, how they're in the schools. The kids see them, so that's very important. And I want to get my grandkids in the program similar to what's going on here because I want them to have the same respect for law enforcement as I have. And thank you so much. And I'm going to continuously work with them. As long as I'm here, I will be here, and I will travel back and forth from Seattle to support your community. But take care of your beautiful community and support law enforcement. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce Mr. McDivitt. He can come up to the stage.
Well, notwithstanding everything that's gone before, this, I know you're all excited because this is the most important part of the program, right?
That's right.
Well, before I do that, I want to introduce, we already, a couple of people, Michelle Kernkamp already left, I think, but if I could have John Oliveri come up. Officer John Oliveri.
Is he still here? There he is. Looking for him. He's here.
Let me read a little about it. Officer John Oliveri is the recipient of the Spokane Police Foundation 2024 Northwest Gang Investigators Association Scholarship. Officer John Oliveri is a great example of the fantastic police officers who serve our community. His supervisor, Sergeant McMurdy, described him as a highly reliable officer who shows up to work early, takes more than his share of calls, and is the first to volunteer for any special assignment or less desirable detail. Officer Oliveri has a great attitude toward police work. He is a consummate professional with the citizens of Spokane, even when they do not reciprocate. Officer Oliveri is always attending gang meetings, and he has surpassed his peers in field interview reports, which are an essential tool in gang and criminal enforcement. He routinely gathers criminal intelligence on our local criminal street gangs in Spokane. He has a knack for recalling names, addresses, and vehicles. I wish I had that. Of known criminals as well as gang members. Officer Oliveri is known to be a great resource to patrol regarding gang intelligence. He's the recipient of the Spokane Police Foundation 2024 Northwest Gang Investigators Association Scholarship.
Put this up. All right, well, you can guess what's going to happen now. Apparently my table guessed because they all left. Thank you, Jacqueline, for sticking it out. And my husband, who has to stay here. And my husband. Thank you, Jim. All right, but before I do that, I do want to take one more chance to thank all of our sponsors. Again, they not only helped underwrite this event, but all of these programs you've heard about today. So another big round of applause for our sponsors today.
We also want to remind you that of why we do this. It is to support the men and women of the Spokane Police Department in their community outreach efforts. These are funds, I might add that it is essentially against the law for the city to expend money on pizza, on gifts, and on a lot of these kinds of things. And that's why the Spokane Police Foundation needs the funds to sponsor these programs. Would all the officers and support staff of the department please stand to be recognized? I also want to point out two people that are really critical, I think, to this program. Kathy Armstrong, I don't know where Kathy went.
She's outside now.
and Jackie McConnell.
Jackie, thank you.
Back there. Thanks for all you do.
Okay, now we're going to ask you for money. You knew that was coming. I brought up the big guns here. So, as you can imagine, all these programs, as he said, take a lot of money to raise. So we're going to give you a few examples of what your donations actually mean.
For example, the PAL program is held in 3 different locations throughout the summer, serves over 400 kids each year. For a $5,000 donation, which I'm sure all of you are ready to do, you could sponsor one of these locations for an entire year. For $2,000, you could sponsor 1 week of PAL.
Yeah, I think you've heard how exciting that PAL program is. For the Christmas program, for a $1,000 donation, you could sponsor 2 families in that Christmas program every year. She said the need grows every year. Or for just $100, you could provide Christmas dinner for one of those families.
Let's see, what do we have left? $1,200 puts the student through the Emmanuel fitness program for a year. $500 will help sponsor a session of YPI. $250 can sponsor an officer to attend a conference or training class, and for $50 you could help pay for an officer to take an at-risk youth to lunch. Whatever amount you're able to give, it'll make a direct impact in the people of our community.
That's right. So whatever you can give, we truly appreciate it. I don't think we could do a better fundraising spiel than our community outreach and our guests did today. So any support you can give would be much appreciated. And as a special bonus this year, if you donate at least $25, you get a Spokane Police Foundation bag. And at least $50, you get one of our cool new t-shirts. I don't even have one of these yet. So you can pick these up on the way out. There's lots of ways to donate. There are donation cards on your table. You can fill those out, leave them on the envelope, or take them out, show them at the table out front. That's where the t-shirts and mug will be. Pick those up as you go. You can also scan this code, donate online. We will see those donations come in as they come through. So again, feel free to stop by, pick up your t-shirt. Or you can simply mail a check. If you didn't bring a big enough check today, go back, mail one to the Police Foundation at this address.
Let me summarize. Since the last year's breakfast, I want to tell you where, you have this is kind of a shareholders report. I want to tell you where your money has been spent. In PAL, as was said before, we had 405 unduplicated youth, or 900 plus PAL recipients, youth. Adopt a family, 22 families, 98 individuals. YPI at New Tech, 38 teens. Thrive soccer camp for refugee youth, 120 youth. Boys and Girls Club education, drug education, safety education, anti-bullying, 8 sessions so far, and the number of youth has varied. Career classes with Salk, Shaw, Glover Middle School, 275 teens. Anti-bullying at Lidgerwood Elementary, and demonstrations at the Academy for Lewis and Clark High School and Youth Leadership Spokane. Let me conclude by saying this. I've been in the criminal justice business for about 22 years. 9 years putting people in prison as the United States Attorney, and 12 years on the Governor's Clemency and Pardons Board, or parole board, recommending people's release from prison. The big takeaway, a couple of takeaways from that 20 plus years of experience. First of all, you can't arrest and prosecute your way out of a crime problem. It's going to be there. The police are necessary. The criminal justice system has to work, but you cannot eliminate a crime problem by arresting and merely incarcerating. What you need to do is go upstream. Get to these kids, and I can't tell you how many stories I've heard in the 20-some years. Get to these people when they're young. Get them to learn the values. Get them to connect with law enforcement. Get them to understand that law enforcement through PAL and YPI are there to help them and hit them in the right direction. So any dollar that you spend, and I know you're going to reach for your checkbooks and fill that envelope with money, any dollar that you spend goes upstream and does that prevention work early on and prevents the problem from happening. Because once the arrest is made, once they're in jail, then it's over for most people. But to get upstream through YPI and PAL and all these other programs that all of these great people are a part of, that's the important. So think about it, think about the numbers, get your checkbook out, and fill up the envelope.
Yes, thank you all again so much for being here. I do want to do a quick plug. We're doing one more fundraiser this year at the end of August. We're doing a competition shoot. I have no idea what that means, but it's going to be at the Academy. People are very excited about it, so stay tuned for more information on that. Again, thank you, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone, for coming.